one. This was a good matchup when we were back doing DPC SEA, and I'm ready to see it once again. Obviously, a couple changes for Neon, but I have faith in them. Black, I hope you have faith in them as well. I know you have in the past, but I'm waiting to hear what you got to say about this one.
It's, you know, in the group stage, they did not really convince me, my man, but... You know, they've recently shown a little power surge since Def came as a stand-in for them. So, hopefully they can do it, but as the panel already said, the draft is looking... yeah, a little rough, let's put it that way. It can work, they need to snowball real hard, but it's not gonna be easy.
I got faith in Yopaj.
I know you do. I mean, he's a fantastic player, but he's had not the best tournament. Individually, unfortunately.
Right. And I think we see that from Yopaj every now and then, where it's just like, I have all this faith in him, and sometimes he underperforms. I think it's also when I juice him up a little bit, and I'm just like, yeah, Yopaj is going to have the game of his life. I feel like I've done that a couple times.
Yo, what up, Ricky?
Where I'm just like, this is his good hero, and then all of a sudden I just get proven pretty horribly wrong. But I've seen him play well. I've tweeted at him. Yopaj got a couple times during the DPC season, but we'll see how he does here. King, is it a matchup that you think he's going to be benefiting in? Because we've seen Moon do work in the past.
Yeah, it's a pretty even matchup. Like, it's a 5-5 matchup, I would say. Monkey King can't really get Harris out of the lane here because of his high armor. Puck should also be just able to get his levels as well as farm, and then just rotate once level 6 hits. As usual, as we always see from Pucks, with that obnoxious, super strong Dream Coil.
Yeah, that Dream Coil always a pain, especially once you pick up that Ags, if that's in the agenda for him. We'll see
eventually,
how it goes.
For sure.
Jabs pulling this lane all the way through in between the tier 2 and the tier 3, and Abaddon's going to completely follow all the way through. Taking a look up towards top, though. Play hard over there as...
Yo, it's Fnatic versus, what's it?
Really
God, it's this new SEA team. It's the lower brackets for Singapore.
I mean, the Death Prophet Lycan matchup is really tough for Lycan.
Hold up. Looks like, oh, OB Neon, huh? Do I recognize anyone here? Yeah, the only one I recognize is like, is on the team is like Raven and Jabs. For Fnatic. I don't know anyone OB Neon.
DP is the hero that is really scared of the Lycan.
What do you think is the counter here, and who do you think isn't safe? Because we've seen a lot of times, actually thinking of both SEA and China when we were doing it for the leagues, we've seen both sides of the Lycan pros and cons, right? Like, we've seen Lycan who can chase down heroes, but we've seen Lycan who's also unsure of what he wants to do, uses that ult, runs in, doesn't do anything, and then it just doesn't feel like that hero that's got all this farm, that has this necro book, is really producing like this.
Yeah, Lycan is pretty hit or miss here, and we've only really seen SEA teams pick it up.
Yeah, I'm just here chilling, bro.
You know, a couple times they misuse their ultimates.
Oh wait, hold up.
For 2 minutes.
Should Monkey King be winning this lane? What the heck?
It's really very punishing.
I feel like he shouldn't be.
We'll have to see how Fnatic does it. Like, Raven is one of the
Because Monkey King starts off with like 0 armor. I feel like Puck just out harasses him.
He'll be doing just fine, but it's not as easy as it used to be.
Do I know any hackers or developers that do bug bounties? I know Facebook does some, Google has some too, but those tend to be very high bounty. I mean, I think a bug for Facebook would be, depends on the bug, probably like at least 10k? Let me pull it up. Yeah, so let me bring up the bug bounty here. Let me mute the stream for a hot second. Yeah. So here, this is on the Facebook website for white hat hackers. If you're looking to just like report any kind of security vulnerability or hack that you found, you can actually submit it through this process, and then they'll just like give you money based on what you find. And so you can, but yeah, you're pretty much not allowed to disclose it until they fix it. And you'll see like a lot of these on Hacker News actually. Oh, I'm 3.5k MR retired. It's alright, man. Like, I don't know, I'm sitting at like 5.2, 5.3. So that's like Divine 3 or something.
Phase.
And to be honest, I barely understand the game.
Very tough one to recover here.
Yo, what up, Christian? Yeah, I'm gonna be online for a while, probably like about a hour or two. And so basically we're gonna have our guest over at 8 for a resume review, but right now I'm just kind of like chilling. And any questions you guys want to throw at me, we can just go ahead and chat about them. But yeah, we'll begin the resume review at like 8. Yeah, 8 p.m. PST, correct. So that's like in about like 45 minutes. And, you know, if he ends up being a no-show, one of you guys can throw your resume at me, and I'll review it.
And to swipe that bounty rune, Jab's not in time. Play hard picks it up.
Yeah, very close. Resulting in 3 bounty runes for Radiant here. And I would agree, like Masaros, he can play from behind, but he's really at his strongest when he's ahead in the game and can start snowballing, making plays.
I mean, if you want, I can give like a freebie if people want. Like, I can just do a few quick ones.
Jabs comes over.
Yeah, just send it to me on Discord, and I'll pop it in.
Very tough kill.
Yeah. Not the easiest to pick up there. Do have that level 6 though for the puck, so Dream Coil available. We'll see if he rotates to a lane or tries to make something happen over mid with a rotation from a support. They do have the Abaddon coming over. Not really sure that's enough to make something happen, unless maybe they turn it on Jabs expecting a rotation.
I think they need the Nature's Prophet as well. Of course, with global presence is always a very good asset here. Rune fight, or the Abaddon actually takes it away from his puck. That feels bad, man. But yeah, like there will be a lot of damage potential here once the Nature's Prophet is level 6. With that Wrath, with that Coil, we have to see which lane they will prioritize on trying to kill, really. This Monkey King is having a very good time, so he could be a good kill. Actually, to beat bottom.
He's going over towards bottom. He's looking over for Debil. Comes in, has Masaros right to his side. The spear will land, and they should be able to get the kill on the Nature's Prophet. Moon gets first
man.
blood.
The moment I look away, he gets fucking first blood. Wow.
Which hasn't been claimed up to this point.
Yeah, a very passive game so far, and Monkey King, good rotation there. Because as we said, Masaros is really struggling. This kill is.
I was really thinking about getting a dev job, but I think being an ethical hacker would be a lot more fun. I still plan to learn to code and get at least one dev job. I mean, yeah, when you do like a lot of just like white hat hacking stuff, and don't quote me on this, a lot of it is just kind of understanding how like these levels of systems work. So for instance, you might know everything about like how to parse like a JSON or like a string in Python. But then when you're dealing with like network level hacking, you pretty much like operating on a different level. Like you need to know like the OSI model, how a lot of these packets get serialized and sent across the wire. Basically just understanding things going from top down and understanding at what step or like how to describe what each step of the technology stack is vulnerable. That's really it. But don't quote me on that.
From trying to turn that around, and that's with the missed impale.
Oh yeah, sorry about that.
Have to be really careful here.
Yeah, I probably should get rid of that shit.
Turn this whole fight around.
I don't want to get like demonetized.
Without any mana though, he used Exorcism, but he didn't have any mana to follow up with the Spirit Siphon. So
actually, then again, I'm not even demonetized, so fuck it.
Or maybe the Exorcism will still result in the tower here, going very aggressively. Mars has Arena though.
Close to getting the tower.
They don't feel comfortable fighting. Nice pick.
God, how the fuck do I get rid of like old streams? Damn it.
Roll over hits, play hard. Grabs the double damage. Still trying to land this stun. He's got Yopaj over to the side.
I'll figure it out later. Fuck it.
Stun.
No coil available.
Getting his mana drained, and I mean he's got no mana to work with at the moment. And Moon's gonna.
But yeah, thanks for the heads up, by the way.
Two supports. Looks over play hard. Spike Carapace. I don't know if that's gonna matter. It looks like he's.
You ever play CS:GO? Nah, man. I fucking suck. I think I played it like a few times. With some high school friends, and they're the same ones who brought me over to Dota. But I only played like maybe like a few games, like maybe 10 or 15. Not really that many. I just got an offer at a mid-sized startup in the US, and your guys helped me a lot. Thanks. Hey, you're welcome, David. I'm really glad it helped you. Edward, did you work with any security engineers at Apple? Not really, no. So, just a little quick background for people who don't really know. It's that I worked on Apple Music for Android, and that was basically my first job out of school. And because of that, I'm really fortunate to have gotten that, even though I've worked basically 3 years professionally prior to that while going to school. And so basically, throughout the entire time, I've basically worked on that one team. Now, the way things are done at Apple is that all the teams are very segmented. Everyone, you know, you're on a very need-to-know basis, and I mean very, very strictly. So a lot of times I wouldn't even be able to talk to a lot of the outside teams. I didn't even know or look at the iOS code for Apple Music. So unfortunately, my Apple connections are very limited, shall we say. But overall, I think Apple is still a really good company. And I'm already starting to find this out, talking to more developers outside of Apple. It's like the way Apple works. Okay. The way Apple works in terms of their hiring is that they hire for the team. That means that if the team's hiring you, it means that they need you. But the culture of Apple tends to promote a very self-sufficient mentality in these developers. So what ends up happening is that you end up with product engineers who can tell you not only how to build products, but how everything under the hood works. Like, they can peel back the Android SDK and tell you how things work, all the way from like how view rendering works, down to like fragments, and even to some of the C++. In fact, there was actually a team of 3 or 4 engineers that were working completely on C++ NDK level. And so what you end up with is like product engineers who really know what they're doing. They're not like writing code and pushing it out to the world. They're really, really stuck, and, well, not say stuck. I say they're very focused on actually understanding what the heck they're doing and why it works. So, in that regard, I think a lot of Apple engineers, like, they would normally be like senior, outside or mid-level, but they would probably come in at a L3, and I think rightfully so, based on not L3 industry, but like L3 relative to Apple, because when you get to senior, the band is super, super big, and the skill level is actually very wide, because there's this huge wall that you go through in order to go from senior to staff, right? Like, once you're staff, you're probably at the top 1% of engineers at your company. Now, try imagining staff at Apple. You basically need to be this giga genius who is really well known or some industry expert. I think the guy who wrote, what's it called? Wrote Homebrew. He was at best senior, I think, and he never made it to staff. So if some guy who creates some of the most popular software in the world can only make it a staff, that kind of tells you the level that Apple is actually operating on. So I feel like a lot of senior engineers at Apple, who may not even necessarily recognize as staff, could operate as staff level easily at any other company.
Level 3 Necro here, like Nold available as well.
I graduated with a degree in chemical engineering and a second degree in biochem in minor in math. Holy shit, that's like so many degrees. What the hell, dude? I've been learning CS and have been leak coding for a year. Do you think I can get a job without a CS degree? I would say you can. And this gets into like what modern software development is like nowadays. And so what I'm going to say is that you don't need to really understand how bytecode is translated, binary, or anything like that. You don't need to have any kind of formal computer science training, really. Because modern software development has gotten to a point where you being able to just find code, understand how it kind of works, and then throwing it in to create a product is more or less the norm, actually, even at these big tech companies. And so if you can understand code, and you can write sufficiently enough and ask the right questions of what you need to know, you're basically already a good enough mid-level developer. The only thing differentiating you from everyone else is how familiar you are with the engineering process. You know, these ERDs, the questions that you get asked, what matters when writing code in production, how you test it, and so on and so forth. That just comes with experience. So, realistically speaking, college doesn't really help you in that regard. College doesn't really teach you to think. Like, it's really interesting that you can know all these different subjects, and it does expand your possibilities. Like, you probably can't get you cannot get a job in AI or machine learning without having gone to college. Just because those fields just require an advanced degree, just the sheer amount of knowledge and cutting edge that you need to study. So that is the one aspect I think college really helps you in, is that it does give you better connections and a better understanding of how things work. But if you're just looking to write product, write code, and just get your foot into tech, college is not necessary. Any thoughts on Xperia as a company? Not really. I mean, you mean in terms of as an investment?
13 armor on everybody.
Honestly, I can't really speak to the engineering culture at Expedia.
Really deal with at this point. They need AC, they need Shiva's Guard, but
what are your go-to interview questions to ask candidate at Uber these days?
It's too cold for AC.
That one's gonna be a trade secret, but I will say that the questions I used to ask were very much open-ended. They would be something like, how would you approach this problem? No, that's a really bad example. Well, let me think. I'm trying to think of a question I can tell you guys. Like the one where you might have seen this on the channel a few times. The one where I ask you about the networking logs, and I ask you, hey, find an algorithm to find our maximum peak load capacity. That one will be a very basic question that I expect anyone to answer, actually. The next part to that question is actually asking you how you would actually expand this into an analytic system. Now that's the more interesting conversation to have, and I don't think I've ever gotten around to actually asking that except for maybe a handful of times.
That stun onto the Nyx assassin. They're bringing over a couple of heroes.
I had a bio degree, got interviews at Amazon after 1 year of self-learning. Apple is elitist. Honestly, we're very strict on hiring, to be honest. I had a referral and never heard back, not even a rejection. Yeah, teams hire on a need basis. Like, other companies, you're hiring based on, you're applying to the entire company, right? And across the entire company, there's going to be a lot of teams that need you, that will need to have fill a headcount. Apple is like, okay, I'm only focused on my own team and my own team only. Maybe we have a headcount, we're looking for an like this kind of person, we're looking for this type of engineer, we're looking for a superstar, sometimes we're not. And so it's very, very specific. It's almost entirely right time, right place to be hired at Apple. So if you don't get a call back from Apple, don't worry. Like I literally had one of my friends, he got 11 out of 12 interviews, like not like received them, but he literally got offers. He passed them. And the one interview that he couldn't pass or even get past the phone screen for was Apple. Because they were asking him like how things worked on the OSI model. How, what's it, how the heck does the microservice architecture work? And like what works underneath the hood for that? God, the name escapes me right now. Not Docker, it's the thing a lot of microservices architectures are built on top of. But yeah, like they were asking him questions about how all that worked. And that was just the phone screen.
Is really used on top of this Lycan. I just don't see how they
Amazon is an equal opportunity sweatshop. No comment. Haven't been to a sweatshop, dude. How does a new grad SWE role interview differ from internship? I would say that you probably go through less hoops. So the way we did it at Apple is like if we had room for you, we would take you on. Because think of it this way. From the perspective of a company that you want to take on productive people, interns aren't necessarily productive. And that's not to say they don't write code. It's just that they don't write code that lives long. Here's why. When you get on a new code base, you're going to be basically like ramping up, learning the new way new things are built, how things are done. And it's going to take you at least 6 months before you write anything meaningful. So to put that on someone who is in the middle of college to write something meaningful within 3 months is almost impossible. So a lot of times what we'll do is we actually will scrap your code or at least use it as a basis, as a way of testing the waters to see what's possible. That's ultimately what happens to a lot of interns' code. So in that regard, your interview is not that stringent either, because there's a lot of interns who are applying. And out of every single one of them, the productivity is roughly about the same. Now, if we like you, we will extend to you a return offer. But the interview itself is actually pretty similar in terms of the question. It's just a whole lot shorter because companies don't put a lot of priority on interns just because of the low rate of return of their productivity in code.
Doing it again, just to deward.
Hopefully, I know I kind of went long-winded on that, but hopefully that answers your question.
It's such a bull.
Are graph questions not commonly asked in interviews? I have been interviewing major tech companies and not come across the graph questions. That's interesting because that was actually a thing I noticed when I was interviewing back in November of 2019. I only got 1 or 2 graph questions, but the graph questions were actually very specific. And I think the reason for this is that most of the time, graph questions are just very, very nuanced. like you can use Dijkstra's algorithm with it. You can use Bellman-Ford. There's a lot of different ways to represent graph relationships, and so being able to expect that from someone who is mostly like not just like out of school, but also writing product every day, day in, day out, to really have a good understanding of how these actually work is actually like, I think they're finding out that it's almost impossible. You might have a basic understanding of how to do things, but ultimately it just boils down to knowing your college algorithms. And I think that's why it's run out of favor. It's just very textbook. It doesn't actually gauge whether or not a candidate is capable of actually evaluating problems. And usually once you get to that point, you're already starting to hit the system designs. So it's like, do I ask a graph question or do I want to ask you a system design question? And if I'm just trying to test whether or not you understand how to write code, then any linked list problem will do. And I think that's basically been the trend. However, I can see a situation where this actually starts to change. I think nowadays, I would not be surprised if companies decided to start replacing a lot of these questions with graph questions, just because these are more appropriate to new grad hires. Because, you know, you've just graduated school, you just studied these algorithms, you should know them better than industry programmers.
Things get used on a support Abaddon.
I have a few years of work experience in web dev, but I'm trying to find next job in C++ or low programming. Resume has only side projects. Any tips? Write shit, dude. Write a project in C++, and hopefully it gets forked on GitHub. That's basically how everyone gets started with like new stuff, making contributions, writing new projects with C++ code. Oh yeah, you could also do Android stuff as well. There is a C++ layer there, and I think you could ride off of the Android brand name if you're interested in trying to just expand your skill set. C++ is just one of those crazy languages that you can do a whole lot in, but you can also blow yourself up with if you don't know what you're doing. So a very good C++ programmer will be able to do a lot of crazy stuff, like for instance, the Twitch mobile app actually has written their video player in C++. They don't use XOPlayer to my knowledge, and XOPlayer is written in Java just because they have some very, very specific requirements for being able to handle video latency, managing memory, and all that good stuff. So if you can become a very good C++ programmer, a lot of very interesting projects will be open to you, and your skills probably won't be doubted. So it is a very job secure thing. But I mean, modern development is about like churning product out fast, letting the product die, and then moving on. So it kind of plays against the modern zeitgeist, which is probably why you won't see a lot of people recommend it. Does Apple have any restrictions on when you can apply to them again? Not to my knowledge. I mean, you could try waiting a year. You could try hitting up another recruiter. But we have had people on a server, and I've interviewed these people at various points that I've coached. They have applied to 2 teams at Apple at the exact same time. And the thing is that I think like these recruiters only manage a few teams at once, and a lot of the recruiters are delegated or third-party hires. So it's like you could probably end up applying to 2 or 3 different teams at Apple at the same time, or just keep applying, and I don't think anyone will actually notice. There's no like moratorium on that. There's no central database, to my knowledge, of resumes. And again, the reason why is because each team hires differently. Each team requires different things. So if you are blacklisting them from one team, they might be useful to another team. You know, Apple doesn't really treat these developers as interchangeable. They really try to hire people who are in it for the long run. So it's in their best interest to hire the best people and to give themselves the most options. But they're also very, very picky about what they want. So it cuts both ways. Hey Daniel, what's up? New OG carry? Come on, who else could it be? Yeah, I mean, you kick mid one. Like, okay, I feel really bad for mid one. He went from off lane to mid to carry and underperformed in all 3. Like, I don't know, man. So, you know, I think his name begins with A and ends in nah. So, oh god, carry Io. No. My pubs are fucking ruined, dude.
BKB,
Carries fucking Io.
BKB, which is something that they were trying to wait for, and then
keep on that vein, what specialized data structure algorithms would you recommend that a new grad study that doesn't show up in Grokking? Like stuff like tries, crosscodes, Dijkstras? Yeah, tries are very common to ask at Google, actually. it's like, but the thing is that a try is very straightforward. There's not too much that you can do with it, and I would never ask anyone about a self-balancing tree. Although I remember this very distinctly at Amazon, I was asked about a red-black tree. And I think it's just because the interviewer wanted to mess with me and just be like, oh, okay, well, I know that you know what a self-balancing tree is. Now I want you to implement it. And I'm like, wait, what the hell? And it's like, okay, well, let me actually, I was like, here's how red-black tree operates. So here's how I'm going to write it. And I think I spent maybe the last 10-15 minutes of the interview just writing the implementation for a red-black tree. And I think the interviewer just like kind of fucked off and decided to go like read Reddit or something, because she didn't say anything the rest of the time. So yeah, I would not expect like any of the really nuanced details to come in. I would expect you to really just master your core basic algorithms like linked lists, arrays, trees. Tries is going to come up in one problem though.
Again though, and something I thought might happen.
Would you personally ask a dynamic programming question while interviewing candidates? Yeah, actually I did. So one question I did ask is that how would you design a matchmaking algorithm? And I don't necessarily mean like matchmaking like Tinder. I mean necessarily like, for instance, here's a problem. Like a Dota, like how would you do a Dota game? So for instance, you have 5 players who are given a ELO score. You have a pool of players given with each player has an ELO score. Find 10 of them. Find 2 teams of 5, such that the average ELO score is, as close as possible. That's a dynamic programming problem, actually. And then I would expect, if they got the answer right, and I don't think I've ever seen anyone get that answer right, or properly explain it, then the next thing I would do is ask them, okay, well, what are some factors that might be problems when it comes to matchmaking? Like, Smurfs, how would you calibrate for Smurfs? How do you calibrate new players who might have transferred from other games and might be proficient at the game? What happens at the extreme ends of the distribution past the P99.9 percentile, where your ELO score can be, the difference between a 2700 and a 2600 could be much more different than, say, a 2100 and 2000. So these are the questions I would ask, and then how they would tune their algorithm to account for that. And that's the follow-up. Again, I've never had a chance to actually ask them because most people fail at the dynamic programming one.
It's Boundless Strike, and they're going to get the Q here on a play hard.
I heard some people say that it was ILTW, but Ana comeback could be sick. I hope Mid 1 finds another team. Like, okay, like Mid 1 is like so good, but then like you look at Secret, and they put him mid. They used to put him mid, right? And what do they give him? Like these boring ass heroes like Viper. Why do you put a 10k MR player on Viper? Like, for what reason? Like, it's such a waste of potential. And then they do it again on fucking OG. And then you could put him like Death Prophet, all these stable mid heroes. It's such a waste of potential, It's like the whole thing, and this kind of actually, let me tie it back to the computer science. You can't actually have a team full of superstar developers. You need to have some people who are going to do the grunt work and are okay with letting other people take the glory, because when you want to do the glory, you want to do the nice, flashy, shiny things that win you games or win you projects, and it's the same thing in Dota. Not everyone can be a carry. Not everyone can be a superstar. Some people just need to do the shitty work and call it a day. And I kind of feel like that's what happened with Mid 1. Any data structure course or books that you recommend? There's a lot of free ones out there, and there's a lot of books. Honestly, at this point, every single book is going to be the same. They're pretty much homogenous. So I know like people charge like $500, $800 for like a data structures and algorithms course and programming. That's such a fucking ripoff. Don't do it. Like the courses that they do, it's like you can go on YouTube right now, like look up free explanations of them, and they're just as good. You're not going to glean any more understanding or anything new off of like a paid course, to be honest. The only thing that would be worth paying for is knowing the strategy, is being taught the strategy, and that's kind of like what I offer with my coaching sessions. It's like, you might know what a linked list is, you might know what a graph is, you might know how a tree is, but do you know how to interpret a problem and apply it in the most efficient manner? And that's where most people really mess up, because most people really think that a coding interview is just like whether or not you actually know what the problem is. Do you know what a tree is? Well, that's not what the coding interview is at all. It's, can you apply it? Can you apply that knowledge in a meaningful way? And that is, I think that is worth paying for, because, you're going to do a lot of trial and error to experiment around and try and figure out
Perfect stun to set up Neon.
how to describe it. You're gonna try and figure out how best to apply it, how to think about these things, and that's where like having a coach I think is the best value. Actually, just buying a course that will tell you what these things are is a waste of money because these things are free. And I never ask people to, use referral links that I have or anything like that. I just recommend them resources. This is the best, and here's why. Go get it yourself if you want it. But anything will do. The key here is actually being able to apply your knowledge.
Able to easily kill the Nature's Prophet.
I sent you an anonymized resume. Okay, yeah, sure, we can do a quick one, Andre.
Let's see.
Put him on Ember or Storm. What do you expect him to do? He was playing Venom Viper every game, getting mech pipe, whatever. Yeah, no. Like Storm, like I remember back in like TI6, TI7. No, he was at TI7. No. They would put mid one on like Storm all the time. And like all these flashy heroes, dude, he was like a beast. And then suddenly, like they might have been like Fnatic or something.
They'll lose Januel. Abaddon's the one they get, but they need to get more out of this if they want to feel confident about coming into the rest of this game. And, well, right now, play hard. He'll fall, too. That's 2 kills here for Moon. Exorcism was used. It doesn't really get them much. A 2-for-1 so far, but the lead extending for Neon.
Wait, hold up.
This is not what I was expecting.
It's looking scary. It's looking scary. But again, I think, like, real late game, minute 40+, this Monkey King and Lycan should be too much to handle. Like, even though the Prophet and Death Prophet are doing a lot of work right now, and the Puck as well, they will slowly be falling off.
So, oh god, I keep looking back over.
Yeah, hold up. I'm loading your resume. Give me a sec.
Hey, he's 5K ahead of the Lycan. And they were neck and neck for a long time.
Open
in AC. He's actually massive.
Yeah, he's filthy rich. Like, he's also quite tanky now with the items he has. I still believe, though, if Lycan... There's just a problem. Lycan can never get on top of him because they're always securing him.
Okay, so let me switch over to resume.
That Lycan just doesn't get the chance to eat him.
It's Lycan, the shapeshifts haven't exactly felt effective.
Okay. Yeah. Alright, I'll just pause Dota in the background. Sorry, guys. Alright, let's go ahead and do this. Oh, why is it so pixelated? What the hell is this? Is there a way I can change that? Wait, hang on. Let me see if I can... Oh, disconnect from control center? Fuck. Okay, yeah, I'll keep the game. I'll keep the game on while I try to figure this out.
And he's dead.
Yeah.
Did you see
it's not an easy
headband usage? Like, he coiled him, headbanded the Mars immediately, and it just broke.
Nah, it's the reason why is because my streaming software just kind of sucks for sharing the
Psychic Blast.
So give me a second.
That's the combo that you think about pulling off. Well, maybe not you. I think about pulling off in my dreams.
How do I use
pull
this?
That off. Eyes closed.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay, hold up.
I mean, it's pretty simple. Like, you just blink in, coil, and push him, and then it's gonna be broken. Like, you have to precisely put down your coil, of course, so he's somewhat at the corner of it, so you can actually push him out of it. But it's like
Android app tap me settings, mirroring quality.
Important thing to know.
I changed it here, right?
Because obviously the item was just recently added. A lot of potential for a hero like Puck. Now 5-man smoke up here. This is really their moment. Like, they need to just win a fight.
Yeah,
picked up on Monkey
this
King.
has to be the fight that they win.
Yeah, and they have all the tools to do so. Like, if Monkey gets on top of Prophet, Prophet is in trouble, and if Lycan gets on top of him, he's also in trouble.
Wait, found it.
Smoke breaks.
Okay, got it. That's God, right?
Death is used up into the air.
Turns out the streaming setting was actually on the computer, not the iPad.
The Death Prophet, can they get the kill on a Death? They finally drop this Death Prophet. They look over at Januel, but Moon ends up dead. Oh dear, they lose the Monkey King pretty early on into this fight.
All right, sorry guys, we gotta pause the game. I know it's very exciting to watch these SEA teams go, but we're gonna do this. All right, let's do it. Good news. All right, cool, man. Y'all can see this, hopefully. All right. Yeah, cool. So let's actually go through this and let's see what we can come up with. So I'm going to read your resume really quickly and we will go ahead and see what we can do. Okay, so I'm treating this like as if I was actually a recruiter. So keep in mind that these recruiters, what they do is they are just mostly looking to see if you have similar experience to the team that you are applying to. So when I read this, I basically get the impression that you are a backend engineer, but you are still just like churning out projects and product at a very basic level. So in this regard, I think you are, I'm going to be honest, it's like a weaker version of a lot of the resumes that I read for new grads. And that's not to say that your resume experience is bad. It's that there is nothing that makes me say, holy shit, this guy is cool. So and it's a lot of little things here. Your resume is like fine, but it's like, it's so fine. It's like not fine. It's like plain white bread with a side of milk. So let me go through this and you can actually begin to see why this might be the case. So software developer, develop beta version of social media app, developing feature feed, and basic user profiles. Okay, well, that's a social media app with video. But this is like, this doesn't tell me anything like cool. What's the cool part of this company? I think this is like you're trying to describe what the company is, but it does so in such a generic way that it's not memorable. I don't know what I should take away from you working at this company. Why do I care about you working at this company? It could have been any fly-by-night startup. So it's too generic. Develop REST API to support mobile application. Again, what exactly did this API do? Was it like some real-time streaming API? Was it just like a endpoint to create sign up forms? Like there's a lot of APIs that can be used and each one of them comes with their own challenges. Like if you have to create an API endpoint that has to deal with a lot of people, then you might have to start figuring out the load balancing and the logic behind that as well. Otherwise, if you're just like, it's like, it doesn't tell me any depth why I should appreciate your experience. It's the same problem as above. So the third time, decrease video load times by implementing video compression and conversion to HLS. Okay, so this is like some real-time streaming stuff. That's cool. So I assume that means that you are trying to decrease and compress the compression quality of the stream. And that's something like, Facebook video I think would actually appreciate. Not to dig on them, but to be honest, their video experience kind of sucks. But the thing is that I need to be able to quantify this. Decrease video by what amount? Like, why do I care that you decrease the video load time? Was it like by 1%, 5%? What big impact do you have? And like you're implementing this. Okay, did you have to be assigned this? Were you self-directed? Or was it just some task that someone gave you? So it's like, there's so much more that you could do with this and, make it sexy, brag about it. Like make me care that this is something that I should care about. Otherwise I'm going to think, oh, well, you decrease video load times by implementing this project. Then I'm thinking that someone just kind of passed this off to you. Yeah, I'll leave the VOD on the channel, if you guys want it. But sure. So yeah, like this is something that you should be able to do. Okay, so technologies that you used, fine. I understand why you do this you're trying to hit those keywords. But the thing is that don't overemphasize it. The reason why is because, like, I don't necessarily, because a human being is going to be reading this, right? So the human being is going to need to actually understand this. Like, he's not going to understand all these keywords. Like, maybe he understands, oh yeah, this is what the team is doing and using. But at the end of the day, when I'm reading it, I'm just like, I need to be able to care about your engineering effort. I need your engineering effort in here. So, this is just for keywords. But then you implement you do this a lot actually, like for technologies. And I imagine some of them might be repeated. And I would actually, if you're trying to hit the keywords, you could just group them into one area, because you are taking up a lot of space just listing out technologies. It's just a lot of space for not that much reward. So that's something. Developed, designed a client broker system for remote submission execution of RPA processes. Well, okay, client broker system, I understand. For remote submission and execution of RPA processes. I actually don't know what this is, so maybe I need to be, maybe it's not for me, but again, I need you to sell this to me. I need you to say, hey, this is why you should care about what the fuck I did. So developed and designed, right? So does that mean that you led the effort? Was this a design that you had to have checked? Was this something that you had originally came up with and then drove? Was this given to you? If you can't tell me a measurable aspect of this or something that's impactful, then what I want you to do is at least show me that you yourself are a very capable developer, at least on the soft side, that you are capable of being self-sufficient. You know, you don't need someone to handhold you. You don't need someone to tell you exactly what to do. So, because of that, I want you to be, it's the same problem I said before. It's too generic. I need you to sell it to me. Developed an SBA supporting CRUD applications, facilitating shipping departments planning by giving them access to, again, this all just runs into the exact same issue. You're telling me what it is, but you don't tell me why I should care. Like, I'm gonna say this, like, why do I care? Like, I have a bunch of other people who write CRUD applications. I have a bunch of other people who write REST APIs. Why do I care about what you did? What makes you special? Migrated website to Laravel. Okay, so website migrations, again, it's these are like refactors. Well, did you? And for an intern, I'm already gonna understand that this is not something that you came up with the ERD for. You were probably just given the task to do it, and then just like it was pushed onto you, and then you just kind of like said, "Okay, I'll do it." And you probably refactored one part of it. So, in other words, my assumptions here kind of make this a little worse just because of how plain it is, just because I understand what this kind of work entails. So I need you to upsell this. Like, put a spin on it. What was the technical complexity? Were you dealing with like some Giga legacy code that could have been refactored and moved to something else? Did you have to do a bunch of extra work? So on and so forth. Develop scripts for account report generation. Again, these all run into the same problem. Like, why do I care? At this point, I think that's pretty much the gist of your resume. Like, you haven't made me care. You haven't sold it to me. It's 7:57. So I'll bring in the main guy. So yeah, I'll bring in the main guy. The guy I was actually going to do resume reviews with. And, you know, if people really like the resume review stuff, then I can add another person to it afterwards. But for now, you know, my time's his, so hold up. Let me bring him into the call. Yo, hello? Hang on. I can't hear you through my own headset. Oh, can you say again? Oh, okay, that's not good. My thing's not hearing you. I don't know why. Huh. Oh, hello?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah. Okay. I've got it. So it looks like my side. It was a problem on my side, man.
Yeah, no problem.
All right, cool. Yeah. So why don't you introduce yourself to I guess the crowd, because we are streaming live on YouTube to 13 people. So hello, 13 people.
Yeah, hey. So I'm Dev. I've been a software engineer now for 5 or 6 years. Trying to basically get into a better paying job at this point. So doing a lot of grokking the coding interview, trying to clean up my resume as a result of this. So that's kind of where I'm at right now.
Yeah. So out of curiosity, how did you find out about me?
One of your members linked me to your Discord after we did some practice interviews together.
Oh, I see. You did practice interviews with him?
Yeah, with her, yeah.
Okay, got it. Cool, man. So, I assume you've read my guide as well?
Yeah, I read your guide. I watched the video that was linked in the guide, and yeah, so I'm basically just going through the grokking right now.
All right, for sure. Yeah. So then, let's send me your resume. And in the meantime, what do you think that has been working for you? What hasn't been, as far as like resume, interviewing effort, and where are you in that process?
Yeah. So for my resume, I think I really don't think my resume is what's selling me. I think my LinkedIn is what's selling me. I get a lot of basically all of my contact through LinkedIn. So that's kind of where that's at. I don't think when I send out my resume to any of these companies that it's sparking enough interest to ever get contacted, which is kind of evident by the fact that it hasn't. And as far as the interviewing process, I'm just kind of doing it lightly right now, just to kind of put out feelers while I'm still practicing everything. So I'm not taking that super hardcore at the moment. So I'm just trying to get everything lined up and ready,
All right, for sure. So I think what you're describing is actually a very common problem. It's like, you get a lot more hits on LinkedIn, but that's because people are casting a wider net on LinkedIn. And so they're just like trying to see who bites and who doesn't. And if you bite, great. If you don't, then, it's move on to the next one. So when you actually go to apply, then that ends up being there's a little bit of a weird conflict, because it turns out maybe, oh, well, this guy we thought was actually in our target, like a target guy, turns out, we don't actually need him. And that can lead to a lot of very weird situations like the one you're in. I assume that you were able to secure some interviews at least?
Yeah, so I had an interview lined up with Facebook, but it turned out I canceled that because I wanted to keep that connection open I knew I wasn't going to pass the interview, so we'll start with that, because I hadn't studied it all by this point. So I canceled the interview and kept that contact with the recruiter, so that way I didn't just fail it and they ended that contact. So now I'm still kind of I told her contact me again in 3 months, and so that's going to be where that's at. I've interviewed with a couple of other places, but I've really been trying to target Microsoft and Google and Twitter, these types of things, but I haven't gotten a single call back from any of them.
Oh, interesting. So you are targeting the big tech companies then?
Yeah.
And I guess that makes sense, since now that you have what's it called, some experience now, that you actually don't really need to do you don't need to go through the whole as much grinding as most people who have just graduated, because you're good enough to be employed by someone, so people are going to use that as social proof, hey, we can employ him somewhere else. And I think once you get past the 2-3 year mark, your opportunities just open up so much, so I don't need to talk to you necessarily about that.
Yeah, I did interview for Amazon, and that did show me though, I actually do need to study somewhat for these algorithm questions, because they asked me a question I just stumbled for an hour through and just completely failed.
Yeah, for sure. And that can be that can happen a lot if you don't like study very well. So, give me a quick 30 seconds to run through your resume, and let's see what we can get out of it. Okay. So, basically what I'm going to say is that your resume is solid. Your expertise is solid. But the thing is that, and it's like, I had to really look to see what kind of engineer you are. And so I'm just going to assume backend. I mean, you do list microservices, but it's like a lot of what you describe here is very agnostic. Like if I just took your job one, for instance, I could have easily said mobile. That would a mobile developer, but I mean, you put backend right here too. So, that's like a small thing I noticed. There's nothing here that says, hey, this guy is an awesome backend developer. What I read from this is that this guy understands the engineering process and is able to manage himself. So for that reason, I would put you at basically an L4 level. So let's actually go through this. I think your resume is actually, solid, but it still has the same problems as the last guy I just talked about. Is that there's nothing in here that makes me want to care, you know? It's like, I want something here to make you memorable. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and that's something when you were just going over the resume before this, I was like, yeah, I think that applies to me as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, let's look at let's just go through this line by line. So develop backend infrastructures for cloud connectivity, enable it in the car. So, okay. You enable cloud connectivity. All right. I would say what's bothering me is this cloud connectivity enabled. You can clean up the words to say like to enable the car to communicate with cloud or something. The thing is that you don't need to make these extremely wordy or, anything like that. It doesn't need to be super crazy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The thing is that cloud connectivity enablement is like what first threw me off. So that's why that's why I was getting like the hippie-jibbies there. So it's like, okay, you enable the car to communicate with the cloud. Now that is, that's already interesting in and of itself. So I don't need you to do anything there. Led system design discussions pertain to system compatibility, security, and code design. Okay. Again, there's a little bit of technical lead, but, yeah, I think that's fine. The thing is that I want to see what makes it cool. What was the technical complexity? Like there needs to be like some little aspect in there that makes it interesting. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
Like a lot of this is like system compatibility, security, and code design. A lot of these can apply to any project. I want to know what makes your system design discussions cool and really, really memorable. So, if you can upsell it.
Yeah.
Build to maintain CI/CD pipeline for multiple services and projects. Okay, I like this one. I understand, because the thing is that I already understand the complexity of being able to maintain a CI/CD pipeline. So in this way, that's why I'm saying, hey, you might be giving me some tech lead vibes and maybe senior level, but this could also be easily L4 in that someone else defined for you, like in Foundations team, defined for you the scope of the project, and you kind of just build to maintain the pipeline. But I would also like to see like what else you did. Like, for instance, did you do like did you write tests? Did you write like some linters of some automated tasks? You know, like what tasks did you put in there? Like maybe like an example or two, you know?
Yeah. And I guess really quick, you keep selling like L4, L5. I'll give you where I think I am. And I think I'm kind of like a high L4, but there's still like some aspects of L5 that I'm pretty weak on, specifically around like requirements gathering and things like that, that I think prevent me from really going into that L5 level.
Yeah, and I can definitely talk about like the requirements at the end for getting to that L5 level. But, you know, I actually like it's good thing that I was able to like sense that from your resume. So, you know, this is a message to the audience that if you think that you are getting misleveled in any way, chances are you're probably not. Like, especially off the resume, because, you know, real recognizes real. So, okay, additional tasks, including story management. Yeah, this is also why the moment you start like having to manage tasks, and then being able to organize them into a timeline, that's already starting to hit the L4 level. L5 is when you start doing that for other people. So, if you can, like, organization of team game nights, you know, honestly, no one cares. I don't care. I'm gonna be honest.
Okay.
But being able,
the reason I included that is because my manager who hired me for this current job really liked that, and I think it was a strong selling point for me.
I mean, sure. If you want to keep it, then go ahead. I'm just gonna tell you, I don't care. I'm not gonna say it's a negative, but mostly I'm focused on the engineering. So,
right. I guess I just wanted to include that, like, I'm very much about like team unity and like working together and stuff, and that kind of showed that in a way, I guess maybe.
Yeah, sure. I guess that you can also give that vibe as as like the type of developer you are, for sure. But honestly, if you are a technical lead, or you give off the technical lead vibes, then that already comes with that title, you know?
Okay.
That's at least my perspective. I understand what your manager is saying. You want to see more human in these, rather than just say like another run-of-the-mill engineer. And I understand that point. But this is just my bias. Okay. Develop features for C++, NetCore microservices, and assuming front-end web development using TypeScript, Angular, and Nginx. Okay. Yeah, it's just features, but you're listing all these technologies. Honestly, I just put them in where you're at. Just move them to its own section.
Okay.
Well, for what? Because one, you're already hitting the second line, right? So, you know, if you could pull out like an extra line from here, extra line from here, and so on and so forth, you could actually just put in a whole section here for tech.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. Also,
yeah, I was really struggling to get it down to like one page at this point.
Okay, yeah. So I see like it's just like a lot of wasted real estate space. Like, like all this shit here. Anyway. Develop data-rich visualization. And also what type of features? Were they like UI intensive? Were they just like, you know, a very simple view that showed a list? You know. It's that kind of thing. I want to know what makes your feature sexy, dude.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely should, because they were like complex back-end service features that would be well highlighted, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, that's definitely something that to think about. Develop rich data visualizations via mapped functionality. That goes over my head. What exactly are you trying to say here?
So basically, we had like a whole bunch of data, and we had to basically show that onto a map using different data visualization techniques. So things like polygons on the map, or different dots on the map, clusters, things like that. So that's kind of what that all means.
Got it. So basically you're just data visualization features.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I feel like you could have put that on this line, or combine these two together into one line and say, hey, you developed data visualization features, and then you could have just put the tech on another line. So that would have saved you like 2 lines right here.
Okay.
So integrate Mapbox functionality to a web front end. I assume Mapbox is some kind of what's it called? Tech on the back end?
It's a JavaScript framework. It's basically a Google Maps alternative.
Okay. I honestly don't care. This line I don't care about. I just don't, because everyone works with multiple formats of data. This is just not telling me why I should care. In fact, the whole thing is like, it's saying what you did, but there's no metrics that you're moving. There's no impact, like act, scope, or metric. You know, how do I know this wasn't just some disposable project that someone decided to just give you because, you know, they just needed you to work on something?
Fair point. And there are a lot of metrics that I can include in that, I believe. I just need to actually write them.
Right. Because then it gives us a good talking point, especially when it comes time to the behavioral interview. I can say, "Oh shit, you did this particular task and you got 30% you got 30% improvement. We were only able to get 15. How did you do it?" Now, and you see like how that leads to a very interesting conversation where you can start diving into your strong suit.
Yeah.
Yeah. So being able to do that, perform additional tasks like bug fixes, continuous integration, code reviews, technology upgrades. Okay, this is fine. It's run of the mill stuff. But it's like, is there anything that you can do to spice it up? A lot of these this statement here just tells me you're familiar with what a production level engineer does. That's it.
Yeah, that job I was definitely like a high L3 beginning to become L4. Where is that now? I'm like an L4.
Okay, for sure. So full stack software developer, develop software solutions for customers in healthcare, wholesale, using Microsoft technologies. Okay, that's at least you're telling me what the company does. Fine. Maintain and develop new features. Well, yeah, same thing. Like here, if you could put this tech on another line and then somehow manage to get rid of technologies, that buys you an extra line.
Yeah.
So maintain and develop new features for internal applications based on help desk request tickets. Yeah, I mean that's the way things go. Again, it needs to be spiced up. It's at its basic level, says. So, migrate a desktop application to a website interface using Microsoft Net for MVC framework. Okay, like these migration projects, I need to know what is the complexity. Like, how bad was legacy code? What were getting like any kind of performance upgrades? You know, because a lot of times people refactor things for no reason other than to say, hey, I'm doing something. So migrating is very much in the same vein. It's like, well, you're moving from this technology stack to another one. Why do I care?
Yeah.
So you need to have some justification for it. To HIPAA compliant federal firearms regulations. Okay, fine.
So really, a quick question about the migration. Is a good reason for that, so one of them being like improves future maintainability and extensibility of the code?
I mean, that's really the reason why a lot of refactors are done. But then if you never touch it again in the future, then that kind of defeats the point as well. It's like, imagine I'm your manager, right? And you need to sell me this project, right? How are you going to do that? You're going to do that by saying, hey, these are the problems that we're running into. We're running into a shit ton of tickets. We have a lot of regressions when we're developing. We have this. Now that shit that you used to justify the project to the manager, you need to put on here. Does that make sense?
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
So, yeah. Let's see. Also, develop applications to comply with HIPAA and firearms require. That's just That's a software feature requirement. It's not.
I guess I was trying to show that I have experience complying with federal regulations in software engineering projects.
Yeah, but for all things being equal, to be honest, a lot of these are just basically another feature that we work with. You know, it's like we want this text to be 3 lines instead of 2. You know, it's just another thing that we have to work with. I will say, if you had to work with some external company that in order to get this done, that's a different story. So for instance, let me take myself as an example. At Uber, I was working with an external team at Amex in order to roll out a lot of these features for the Amex Centurion card that we support. Now, being able to do cross-company collaborations and comply with what these companies wanted from us is a whole different ballgame. If you're just like following a list of regulations, though, that's just, again, another feature requirement set that you could list in an ERD. So my question to you is, which one of these was this? Was this just you following a list of requirements, or did you have to work with an external team?
It was a list of requirements.
Yeah. So that's why it's like not particularly impressive. I understand what you're trying to show here, but it doesn't cut it for me. At least my view. Is there anything else out of these before we move on to the projects? The first one, is there other aspects here that you wanted to talk about, but you cut out, but you feel very strongly that you should talk about them?
The biggest one I can think of is driving or like pushing the company to upgrade the existing services from .NET Framework to .NET Core. I think designing the new project layout and the timeline and the stories for all that is maybe a good thing to list.
Okay. Well, yeah, being able to create a product, design it, drive it, that's already starting to hit L5. You should put that in.
Okay.
Yeah, driving, designing, and get buy-in.
Yeah, that was very much a thing where like I designed the new layout and like then gave it to other teams who then took it and upgraded their services using that scaffold or layout or whatever you want to call it.
Perfect. Well, the thing is that what I want you to do is be able to, how to describe it? I want you to do that, but also emphasize that you had to get buy-in. And that's the key thing. Get buy-in from other teams. I want you to remember this phrase. And everyone out there, I want you to remember this as well. Why is this important? This is important because every single team has their own priorities, has their own goals, their own timelines. So you having to get each and every single one of these teams on board means that they understand that whatever you're doing is more important than something else that they could be doing. That requires you to make the technical argument of why this is going to help them. This requires you to also have the right social skills in order to get people to like you, because even though you might be presenting me with a very great technical alternative, I'm not going to do it if I hate your guts. And that also means that you're able to navigate cross-company or cross-team complexities. So this can apply to different, if you are, maybe staff engineer, you could be affecting mobile, backend, front end, whatever. But if you could just affect all of backend and do some kind of infrastructure project and get buy-in, that's already a very big win. I don't know why you're not talking about that.
Yeah, that's definitely something I should be talking about.
Yeah. So, so get buy-in, cross team complexity. Yeah, more shit like that. And again, we'll talk more about like what constitutes engineers at each of these different levels. But I want you to be able to drive that narrative for yourself. Like, when you wrote this resume, what kind of, how do I describe it? What kind of engineer do you want to portray? What kind of engineer do you want me to remember you as?
Yeah, I definitely want to be remembered as the engineer that can design new systems, lead conversations around technologies, and collaborate with multiple teams to get those projects done.
Okay, then you want to be able to say that you are capable of navigating cross-team technical boundaries. And so, like, being able to do that, like, this shit right here should be your primary focus. Like, again, it's cool that you can do back-end projects and CI/CD, but I need to know which one of these projects actually lent itself to supporting that narrative. And if you can drive that whole narrative of going from, oh yeah, I was like working on just these random features, to being able to get people together, to being able to work on like these really complicated and highly technical tasks and then get buy-in. If we can form that narrative from job 3 to job 2 to job 1, that makes the resume so much easier to read, Because that way I don't have to try figuring out, oh, you went from this technology to this technology to this technology. I want to instead try and get you to organize this in a way that tells a cohesive story of your path as a career developer. Does that make sense?
Yeah, so mapping the flow from where I started as an intern to L3 to L4.
Yeah, you can think of it like that, L3 to L4, L4 and on your way to L5.
Right.
So, and I mean, yeah, the technology, that's kind of also why the technology, inserting random technologies here that don't have anything to do with each other can also throw me off. Because, like, for instance, for me, I would put like a junior Android developer, and I just say all these different Android tech. Okay, like, Motif, Butterknife, Hilt, ArcJava, all these stuff, at least then the context is I know all these are related to Android. For you, I see like C#. Like, am I going to assume that this is also C#? And even then, I would put technology at the bottom, because at some point the technology doesn't really matter. It's like a lot of these things across different tech stacks are going to be very similar and do exactly the same thing. So, for instance, ArcJava is like a pub sub subscription flow. But then you also have like simpler versions of that, like Kotlin coroutines. You can also do Apache Kafka on a more, it's just a glorified version of that. All these do exactly the same thing. The question at that point doesn't become what technologies you use. The question is how you use that to create leverage and drive existing company initiatives. And that's when you start dealing with the senior level stuff. The fact that you have to mention that, I worked on this feature and I use this technology just already screams that you are still naive to the realities of engineering. That is the vibe, and that's the signal I'm picking up here. And I think everyone else should really listen to that. There is like a lot of tells that you can do to like hide and emphasize certain traits in order to seem better than you are. And it really just begins with understanding the complexities of engineering. So, knowing that, let's look at number 2. Let's work backwards from that. So, here, what is your goal here? You were just trying to say you created some rich data visualizations. So, does that mean that these were just projects that were given to you, or were these projects that you drove on your own?
So I think, I guess to start off, I think my job description is the weakest part of this entire resume, and it needs to rewrite the most.
Okay.
I think it's really about trying to show working with complex data, creating complex business logic endpoints, I guess is what I would call it, and just really driving home like data is part of that job, because that was the whole job, was like creating interesting data points and giving them to the user for analysis in multiple formats of, in this case, a map, in other cases, tables of interesting numbers, whatever it was.
Okay. So did you have to come up with these analytics and data yourself, or were these just already supplied to you by like a data science team?
These were supplied by like the business team.
Okay, I see. And your job was just to visualize that.
Yeah, so we had to take like the base data and turn it into whatever numbers they wanted, and they would tell us like, to get this number, you take A divided by B times X to the power of A times 2, or whatever it was.
Okay, so these were all just math calculations, and then you just like visualize that.
Math calculations to an extent. It was more like a lot of data joins and things like that on the SQL side.
Okay, I see. So you're just like, you're pulling data from a server or a database, and then we're showing it to the user. There has to be a technical complexity to that. I mean, you're probably pulling from multiple sources, multiple databases. Is there anything else? Like, was there like some real-time streaming API that you had to use or anything like that?
No, I would say the most complex part is really that we maintained over 20 databases of data, and we were able to pull that from multiple sources. So like, for example, we'd have like 15 different customers, all with like differently formed data, and we'd pull that all in and normalize it to our structure and then combine it, blah blah blah, product.
Okay, I see. Yeah, so essentially you had a bunch of different sources, combine those sources into meaningful data. Okay. Again, it's like, doing that is fine as like a L3 and feature engineer that you're kind of given. I'm just looking for a way to spin this better. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's hard for me to figure that one out. But at least you know what to do. You know where we're trying to go with this. So I can leave this to you, and hopefully you can come up with something.
Yeah, it's something I need to spend some time like critically thinking about to even remember, because it was a couple of years ago at this point, everything that went into that.
Right, so that makes sense. Yeah, so let's see. What else we got? Capstone project, team lead and software developer at Job 2. Create an application to use project development at global scale. Okay, hold on. This is starting to get more interesting. First of all, you create the Tesla suites, you create the documentation, you met with the client, you create the application, and to increase the ease of project management. You maintain the Git repo for developers, and you basically acted as a technical lead for this. Why the heck is this not under your work experience?
I guess it kind of is work experience. I could put it up there, I guess.
Like, it is work experience. It's not for yourself, right?
No, I guess I just considered it kind of a project because it was for school, but I guess it was for a company, so it would be work in a way, I guess. And I did get hired off the back of that project, so...
Yeah, so then just say, hey, it wasn't a project for the university, it's a project for the company. That's not lying. And also... it has all this, this narrative we're trying to paint here. It's like, oh, you met with the client. You decided to go, drive this project yourself. You are managing a team of 4 developers. Wow, look at that. L5 signal right there. Deployed a website. Cool. You created Tesla Suites. You were responsible for actually understanding what it took to test this application. You drove the development plan, ERDs. Wow. It's like, it's right there. It's on a fucking platter, and you're not using it. Oh my god.
Yeah, okay. I'll definitely have to reorganize that a little bit.
What the heck, dude? It's right there. Your entire narrative is right there, sitting on the resume, and you're not using it. Okay, yeah, okay. Boy. But you get my point here. You can spice it up for sure. But you're already signaling a lot, and if you could emphasize this, you could easily sneak an L5. So, what I want you to do is spice this up. What was the complexity of meeting with external external clients? What was the complexity in each one of these? What was blocking you? What did you have to do in order to get this to happen? Because it's one thing to say you did it. It's another thing to say what was so special about doing it.
Right.
So, can you tell me something about it that you think would be very eye-catching?
So, do you want it for more of the management side or the tech side, I guess?
Either or, to be honest, because the reason why is because once you start getting L5, you actually do start dealing with a lot of the managerial stuff. But you also are mostly focused on technical, so I can accept either, but I would definitely like a little bit more technical.
Okay, because one of the main things I was thinking of, the most impressive thing, at least for me, was creating a 3 to 4 month plan of user stories to create the entire project. I think planning that far out in advance is very, very hard, and the fact that I was able to do it was pretty impressive, at least to me.
Yeah, planning out for an entire quarter. If a project takes a quarter and you plan out for a quarter, that's pretty normal. But it also says that the company was willing to invest 1/4 of its time into you. So being able to specify that time is actually pretty good. So I would add that if I were you.
Okay.
Because if it's a 3-week project, then no, it's whatever, But if it's it took the full 12 weeks, that's something different. So, let's see what else. Yeah, I'll leave this to you unless you have other ideas of how you want to spice this up.
I guess all I would say about it was the actual program itself and the implementation was pretty standard and not really anything special. I think the real special part of this experience comes from the team leadership experience that I got from it.
Sure. Software estimations, planning, all that good stuff. That happens. That's fine. Yeah. So again, I would try to spice up a little bit, but again, the backbone is right there. The foundation, you already got it. So, participate on a team in the 24-hour hackathon. Okay, cool. Honestly, the rest of this,
I was just gonna say it's showing integrating with external company APIs, blah blah blah.
Yeah, that's fine. And I'm okay with this. It's not taking a large part of your projects. Of course, this could be cut out if you need space.
Yeah, the technologies part, I'd probably get rid of, like you've been saying, for the other stuff.
Mm-hmm. Also, just as a thing, I would actually start taking this out, and you're probably at. And if we want to eke out your what's it called? Experience. We like take the graduation date out. The reason why I'm saying this is because it can make you look better. It makes you look like you have more experience.
Right. Is a GPA worth using if it's like 3.65, 3.7, something like that, or just leave it out?
Yeah, I do that.
Okay.
Now, actually, hey, now let's look at this after these changes. Well, now I look at this and say, hey, you started in 2015, and now it's 2021. You have 6 years of experience. Right? Whereas if I only had you put in May 2018, and now I'm going to say, oh, you only have like 3 years of experience. I'm going to put you at an L3 level. Notice how by doing that alone, we have literally just made your resume look like you're more seasoned. And then suddenly, we look like, oh, well, this guy might actually be a senior developer. And, 6 years of experience is right up there. Let's give him a shot at the L5 level.
Yeah, it definitely causes some confusion because I got the associates and then was working in the field while getting a bachelor's, so it just looks weird, I guess, yeah.
Yeah, no, I did exactly the same thing. So I'm literally just talking from experience because it's exactly what I did.
Yeah.
So yeah, you do this. Let me know how it goes actually. For the resume. And then in the meantime, what I want to do is actually go over a little bit of like the expectations of engineering. What's it called? Levels. So I'm going to use the square engineering ladder because I think this is pretty accurate. It's a little bit light, but I think it is pretty much a very good basis for what you need to do. Okay. Okay, so can everyone see this? Here, let me switch it over again. Okay, so, yeah, so can you see this on the live stream, or am I behind?
Yeah, I see it.
All right, cool. Yeah, so here, essentially we're talking about L3, L4, L5, in visual computers. Holy shit, there's an L9 now? What the hell? I am curious about it. Industry reserve for future use. Yeah. Okay. So, L3, you start writing test document code according to Square engineering standards and practices, debugs issues, serves as an on-call, and you fix bugs. You write features, fix bugs. Nothing, and then ask for help. That's really it at the L3 level. That's why I say the jump from L3 to L4 is actually very easy, because once you understand what the engineering process entails, you're already at L4 level. The L4 is a solid contributor, right? You basically start saying, hey, you can give me a feature, you can give me a task, and I'm self-sufficient enough to get it done. All my coding is good, all my practices are good, all my clean code is good. I can drive it from start to end, and I can begin to start contributing back to the company. But you're still at this point a very self-sufficient, self-motivated engineer at this level. So if I go to, like, say, an L5, then we start leading features independently of the entire lifecycle project and design, development, deployment. Very, very proficient in one area. So that's why I recommend people stick with one tech stack, that you become very, very good. And I have a whole rant on this about senior engineers who are not technically proficient and just have made it there by being able to get people together. That's a whole different thing, though. But yeah. So the next thing is that ownership prioritizes, values unknown or undesirable work that enables the team to move faster. So this is what I start talking about when I mentioned leverage. And so the reason why this becomes relevant is because you need to start realizing that there are other technical complexities that are blocking people on the other side, because you're not the only team that is really using this tech. There's other teams that are using the exact same one on the platform. So if you can, like, this is where, like, commonly abstracting, like, presenters, error reviews, and whatnot is seen as a watered-down version of this. But more or less, we're asking you to try and create some architecture components that can be used to help improve the efficiency of other teams, whatever that might entail. Work with other.
That's actually sorry. I was gonna say that's actually a big part of what I do at my current position.
Oh, cool. Yeah. Then why don't you then definitely emphasize this?
Yeah, I pushed the entire company into using a package I created to enforce coding standards. I basically built in code standard enforcements into our pipelines. A whole bunch of other stuff to make developers' lives easier down the line in the future, things like that.
Okay, so yeah, the fact that you can even do that is actually very good. Prioritizes, so you should just like try to find ways to emphasize that. Again, being able to work outside your team is a very, very big mark. So, collaboration, teaching other engineers on an individual basis, participating in the hiring process, and conducting engineering interviews. Yeah, so all this is cool. And again, I can dive deeper into the technicals, but the idea I want you to start having here is to start thinking about how to multiply your leverage. Being able to say, hey, not only am I contributing to my work, I'm also contributing to other people's work by understanding the real issues, not by like doing random shit like, oh yeah, well, I can create this random presenter and clean up our code by abstracting, doing a meaningless abstraction, It's being able to get impact, and the easiest way to do this is by getting other people on other teams to buy into the idea, because they're gonna smell bullshit from a mile away because they're protecting their own interests. So, and then if you want to really think ahead, staff engineer. So now you're starting to do. So you really need to know your shit. Seriously, like I'm not kidding. No one makes it to staff by bullshitting their way. They make it to staff by very, very clearly understanding one tech stack all the way down to the nitty gritty. And I like, again, I can't really talk too much about this because I am not a staff engineer myself, but based on the team I'm working on, who has like, I think, we have like 2 staffs and 3 people who are about to be staff. Basically what I see here is that they're able to solve problems on multiple axes, scale, uncertainty, and interconnect to this, but also being able to understand the pitfalls of where certain projects might go. Like, hey, you guys are thinking about writing this declarative UI or migrating to Jetpack Compose. Well, here are the pitfalls based on these things that I have read and I've tried out. And they'll do this very, very quickly. They will monitor team pace and urgency, protect from burnout. Yeah, being able to have the clout, essentially, to be able to drive efforts that people don't ordinarily want to do, because most people want to write product. Most people want to ship that out the door and move on to the next. But that means that they need to be regulated. They can't just keep shipping product out the door. Similarly, they can't just be focusing on only product. They need to make some kind of investment in their own architecture. So you need to be able to find a way, whatever that might be, to be able to convince teams, hey, slow down, focus on the right tasks. And that is going to come from a very, very good and very deep technical expertise. So organizing, managing timelines and risk, understanding where the hell you can go wrong, cross team boundaries to solve problems, same as before, just a whole lot more. Build relationship with stakeholders, including customers. Yeah, this is pretty similar to what most people do. I think the reason why in big tech companies this is actually going to be emphasized is because most of the time you're only working within your own team or a sister team. Being able to communicate outside the team or outside the company itself is actually a very, very strong sign of leadership and collaboration. So I would recommend if you can find a way to sneak this in, that's also very good. Ensures that knowledge is shared amongst teams and do not position themselves as a single point of failure. Yeah, being able to multiply your leverage and impact. Contribute to strategic definition, planning the roadmap, escalating issues. Being able to essentially be a puppet master is the best way I'll describe it. It's like, hey, you know what pulling this one string will lead to? If you do this code decision, then 2 months down the road, you will face this issue, and so on and so forth. Being able to essentially blaze the path for the rest of your team and understanding the consequence of each step that you are doing. this is where you want to go if you're trying to be a staff engineer. But again, this is getting ahead of ourselves. But you can already see how the progression from L3, L4, L5, and so on begins to feed into this idea of being able to multiply your impact and being able to have a very strong technical understanding that will drive this. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. I guess I was also thinking of one other thing I might just share for your viewers about something they can easily do for that L5 mark is that, for example, one of the things that we had was a giant web of dependencies, and you couldn't upgrade a single package in our entire project without the entire thing breaking and being unable to build. So I drove the initiative to get that all sorted out because that was just a giant mess, and now we can actually build our projects with latest package versions. So that's something that sounded like it kind of fell in the L5 level.
Yeah, that is a very much an L5 level engineering effort. It's like, hey, we have a whole architecture that needs to be cleaned up. Let's try and actually do it. You probably come up with an ERD, you come with some tool to be able to start this process, or at least impose some kind of standard and practice to start migrating towards it. So that way no other, circular dependencies or massive dependencies occurs. And this is a very common problem for teams at big companies that don't understand the build system. They will actually just start randomly importing packages and mess up the whole build, so that way it just becomes one monolith and defeats the entire purposes of having packages or modules. So if you can actually just say what role you had in that and be able to say, hey, I created the ERD, I drove this discussion, and I drove the entire project, that would very clearly put you at an L5 level. So,
yeah, I think one of the hardest things, at least for me personally, is that doing these things, like driving these changes, while it puts you at the L5 level, I feel like for me at least internally, because I'm not doing as much of the coding side of things, I feel like I'm not doing as much. I'm just kind of like coming up with the idea and then saying, here, now you do it. I came up with it and now you implement it. So like, while that looks good, internally it feels weird, I guess. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and that's the thing. That's what I'm trying to get you to think about. It's being able to change that mentality from, hey, I'm just writing code, to, hey, I'm solving a problem. It doesn't matter who writes the code. It just matters what code we're writing. And so, you can write down shitty code every day, all day, but that'll be like a huge waste of time if you're solving the wrong problem. Especially, you need to maintain that code as well. But if you can start thinking about, hey, I'm solving the right problem here, and I am directing all our efforts to the right place, that is what will make you a better engineer and a better leader. That's not to say that you aren't going to be, writing code whatsoever. I mean, for instance, in order to get these projects off the ground, you need a proof of concept, right? You need to be able to come up with a very quick demo that, hey, this idea works for 80-90% of cases, and that all we need to do is put effort into solving it for 100% of cases. So because of that, you want to be able to have that leverage, and you need to write a demo product to show that this is going to work. Of course, being able to apply this across every single team, you cannot do that yourself. If it requires to go into the build file of every single team and make the changes manually yourself, there's probably dozens of teams that you have to do that for. But if you can get buy-in for a team to spend one day to do it, that's so much better, and you're going to accomplish the exact same thing.
Right. Yeah, I think it's almost like a almost like a cognitive dissonance that happens, because you're basically spending your entire time as L3 and most of your time as L4 learning that the better you can write code, the more efficiently you can write code, the better you're going to be. But then when you kind of get towards L5, it's less about the code you're writing and more about the design you're showing to other people to write.
I would say, yeah, it starts becoming that. It's not all that a lot, but it does start creeping into there. But don't get me wrong, that's also why people can fake their ways into an L5, because they get other people to do stuff and then call that leverage. And it's again, I can go on a side rant about this, but it's if people can direct other people's efforts, that's an L5 trait. The problem is when they do it to the wrong effort, or it results in nothing, And that's when things start getting really, really screwy. And that's why you need to be very, very proficient at one or more technical areas and have very good decision making. Because really, if you try and convince someone to write code and the project fails, you lose a lot of trust and reputation. And that's exactly what is needed in order to drive product and write these biggest projects. And I've had my fair share of people who just straight up could not make the right decisions, and in the end, no one trusted them at all. You know, you only get one chance, and you fuck it up forever. So this is why. Sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna say that I think that's kind of why I consider myself more like a high L4, almost L5, because I feel like I'm not quite at that spot yet. I'm almost there, but not quite yet.
Like the litmus test I give people is that, hey, are you willing to get fired if you are wrong? Or when the alternative is listening to someone you don't trust. If you're not ready to do that, you're not ready to lead. Like, I would literally, like, if I could do it, I would say, hey, if this person is disagreeing with my idea, and I disagree with them so severely that I'd be willing to risk my job, I'd do it. That's the thing. That's what it means to lead and be very, very confident in your own abilities. Unfortunately, I've never had that situation. But, you know, it's the attitude of it. That's what matters. So
right, coming into the situation with the confidence that you are right and that is the correct path.
Right. That doesn't mean necessarily you're stubborn as all hell. You know, you're obviously going to listen to other people, and other people are going to know more than you in some areas. But at some point, there's going to be like a severe disagreement, and, you know, that's going to make or break you as an engineer, whatever the resolution of that is. And fortunately, you don't have to get to that point yet, but it's just something to start chewing on and thinking about.
Right.
All right. Quick thing from Andre. Sounds like you're predicting the future. I mean, yeah, like the whole, like Dota, for instance, is actually the exact same thing. The players have been through so many situations that they kind of already know, they have a good idea of how this situation will play out if they, you know, go farm over there, if they hit this creep, if they show themselves on this map. Then they know that, oh, well, the enemy team is going to either gank them or run to the other side of the map and gank their allies or something like that, you know? It's like they have the technical know-how and expertise and experience to understand that this is the most likely scenario. Can they be wrong? Yeah. Like, not everything can be predicted, you know? There's always, like, changing requirements or changing scopes and whatever. But for the most part, it's almost always based on their gut feeling and sense. So, yeah. So that'll do it for me. You got any questions?
No, I think this is great. I definitely need to do some rewriting and definitely emphasize that capstone project, like you said. I think you made it pretty clear that might be my biggest blunder, is not emphasizing that more.
Yeah, for sure. And definitely you can look up the Square Software Engineering Career Ladder if you want to know how to tailor your resume and persona. I have a video on how to do that for the behavioral interview. But this is available on Google. Like, you can just Google search it.
Okay.
So, yeah, that's my recommendation. Yeah, I can, and then, yeah, I guess if you don't have any questions, yeah, I'll kick you out of the call.
Okay. Kick me out. I will talk to you. I don't know if I'll talk to you later, but thank you for doing this.
Yeah, for sure. Let me know how things go, by the way.
Yeah, I'll shoot you a message after I rewrite it and send it out a couple places.
All right, for sure. All right, take care,
man.
All
right, thanks, man. See ya.
All right. Yeah, that was pretty cool. That was pretty chill. Yeah, we got like, I can spend another 10 minutes if people want to ask like Q&A. Oh, actually, let's see how this game went. Hit it. That's what I'm... Yeah. Oh wait, there's an ad. Hold up. Let's go to Wikipedia. I'm actually very curious. What happened? Oh, ouch. Okay, so they have is this a best 2 out of 3? Or is this just a one match and then they lose and then that's it? Oh, no. Okay, so Neon won, actually. Wow. Huh. That Monkey King got hella fat. I actually was very surprised. So. Oh, man. Oh! Wait, what did I just walk into? Holy shit, 22 minutes hitting high ground? Jesus, this Alchemist must have had a free-ass game. Okay, well, looks like we just tuned into a slaughter. What up, guys? Where can you send your resume for review? We can do this, like, I plan to do this, like, maybe once a week or something. If I can get, like, a regular viewership going, that'd be really cool. So if people really like this, please send it out. Share with your friends. And usually I respond to messages on Discord. If people have, like, an interesting idea or want to talk about, like, their resume, their interview successes, or want to get the resume reviewed, I usually just do that on a weekly basis on the Discord channel. It's free to join. Description is in the stream description. The link to that is in the stream description. But yeah, like, a lot of times we just talk about a bunch of various topics. So if people want to hear what it's like or if people want to hear the experiences of people who have passed their interview experience, I can also bring someone on as well. So, yeah. Let's see. Holy shit. Yeah, that wasn't even a match, man. That Alchemist just got fed. Oh, dude, Raven is so fucking good. I think he's been underrated for a long time. I don't know why he was ever on support. No, like, Raven has always been, like, super giga stable. You could put him on, like, any carry, and then, like, he would have performed. Like, maybe not, like, giga crazy perform, but, like, go to buff. Let's see. Raven. Like, I remember that they were, for a long time, they just put him, like, Juggernaut. Like, okay, Juggernaut, self-sufficient. Gyrocopter, self-sufficient. Terrorblade. For a lot of the, meta, self-sufficient. Lycan, pretty self-sufficient. Mows down towers. Morphling. Yeah, you look at all these. A lot of these have been very self-sufficient heroes. He does not need, like, any kind of babying whatsoever, dude. Like, no, but if you put him on, like, a Spectre, I guess there was, that's the exception. Sven, yeah, that's the exception. But for the most part, a lot of these are very self-sufficient. You don't really need anyone to babysit him. So, it's like, he's 10k for a reason. Let's put it that way. Yeah. So. Yeah, bro, I haven't played Dota in ages. Yeah, me either. I haven't played that much, honestly. I've been mostly focused on, like, writing my, on, like, personal projects, to be honest, so. Alright, see you, Chris. Thanks for joining the stream, by the way, so. Well, like, guys, you can ask me any question you want, dude. Thanks, MP. Glad you enjoyed it. Yeah. Yeah, I can do this, like, once a week as well. If people really like it on Wednesday nights. And if you guys have any other ideas that you want to do, just throw them at me. So basically the current project I'm working on is more like it's a personal valuation bot for investments, where you plug in a stock ticker and then it'll give you, like, the relative value of that stock. And it'll do, like, a valuation for you. So let me see if I can give you an example. What the hell? Yeah, so, like, this is like a test server that I use. Do you think I should put my capstone project under experience? I mean, it's like, what kind of story are you trying to send, you know? It's like, why do I want to care about it, you know? And if you can have that capstone project accurately reflect any of the other aspects that I mentioned in the Square engineering ladder, then you want to use it. Because again, you're trying to paint a story and trying to emphasize these key key traits at each level. So, for instance, if your capstone project shows you operating at an L4 level and you're trying to aim for an L4 job, then you want to do that. And same with this guy. His capstone project could easily be spun into an L5 level, even though he rates himself as a high L4. So then, well, why not give yourself that chance to be considered an L5 engineer? I even took out his year graduating to make it seem like his years of experience were better than, than before. Now, did I lie? No, I just took out his college graduation date, because a lot of times resume reviewers will just look at the college graduation date, look at the current date, and say, hey, that's your years of experience. But if you can take that out, then you can start counting all the other years that you've had. So, yeah, so going to the bot. So what I've done here is I have set up a local machine to be like essentially quote unquote my server. But you can look up how to do a Python bot for Discord. And so what it'll do is when I type in a command into Discord, it will relay it to the Discord server and then relay it to my other computer here that is running all the Python code. And the way it does this is by like every single time you run the local code here on my machine, that it will register itself with Discord and say, hey, this is the source of the bot. You need to relay all commands to me. So for instance, if I type in valuebot, which is the name of the bot, and type in Apple, it will start. Oh God, it just broke. God damn. Oh no, it didn't break. Haha. Yeah. So it prints out all this information about the what's it called? About the company. So I don't know if you guys can see this, but let me zoom it in. Let's see, display capture, unlock. So yeah. So like here, you can see here that it just prints out all this bot information for you. So it just says like what the current market cap is, what it currently trades at, all these technical informations, and then it just tries to predict the stock price based on it. I'm not saying to actually do this or to operate based on the information I'm presenting here. Again, disclaimer, it's not meant to be a actual telling you what to do thing. It's more like just a way of showing you what you can do with that information. But again, these are like the type of projects you can do if you are a student and you're looking for ways of practicing, like say Python or something like that, and add something to your resume. Doing a stock recommendation engine is actually quite good because you can go in a lot of different ways with this, and it's infinitely expandable. You can do something simple like an FCFE evaluation like I do here, or you can do like machine learning or AI regression or like some linear regression or something like that, some day trading patterns, whatever you want, And so this has been like a personal project for me, just because I got interested in this and I just kind of like wanted to do it. And so I've just been chipping away at it on the weekend. So now I have a little Discord server here that just tells me what to value it as. I haven't really done anything with it though. Like I haven't actually tried investing on these numbers yet, but I just think it's just really interesting to try out. So I guess I can call myself a Python programmer now. Okay, let me bring the screen back to normal size. Okay, some chills on typing speed games. All right. Hold up. Oh wait, no, I'm not actually gonna be right back. So typing speed game. All right. Dude, I'm not even a Dude, I'm not a fucking good investor at all, dude. Like most of my trades are trash. But it's just mostly just an interest project, to be honest. So let's see. So pretty much a lot of why I'm different, what did I do that was actually important, how much of it was improved functionality, whatever. Yeah, that's basically the gist of it, because there's so many developers nowadays. There's so many developers pumping out projects that are pretty much meaningless, to be honest. The question is, why should I care about your project, Like, why should Uber care about this one guy who wrote a bot for value investing versus another guy who wrote a bot for value investing? Because if I go onto GitHub, like, let's say I go to GitHub right now, right? And I type in value investing. Sorry. Like, holy shit. Like, there's a shit ton of projects. Like, all of them on Jupyter Notebook, Python, HTML, and there's like 400 repositories. Out of these 400 projects, why should I care about yours? You know? What did you do that was so special here? Why should I care about you versus like this guy, this guy, this guy? Or like if I sort by, let's say the most stars? Let's say I sort by most stars. Value investing or value investing newbie, or value investing tool. You know? Like this guy. He's like, oh, he gives a list of signals here. Extracting balance and income sheets. You know, decision machine based on marginal stock price to EPS. Why should I care about what this guy did versus the next guy? This guy's just like, okay, I can't, like, did write this in Chinese. And then value investing, you know, it's like he will say, oh, this is what I did on this. Like, oh, okay, I'm going to look at EBITDA, net revenue, earnings per share, and I'm going to give you back a score based on all of these. Okay, so it's a recommendation engine. Well, how does the recommendation engine work? Well, I don't know. So it looks like, oh, I did it based on a study here of the use of historical, whatever this fucking book is. I really should read this F score, you know? And so basically he is basically implementing a actual financial ideas in a actual book, you know? So this is like what separates it. This is why I should care about one value investing repo over another. It's that oomph factor right there. It's not personal anymore. Yeah, I'll apply to my first quant researcher position. Yeah, you know, actually, when I was like 18, I actually wanted to do like day trading and stuff, but then it's like I just ended up being really good at computer programming. But I'll let you know if I ever make it big as a day trader, which I don't think I have the stomach for, to be honest. Like, I just have fucking paper hands for whatever reason. Dude, I couldn't even hold through GME. I think I bought it at like 12 and then got out at 300. And then it's like, ever since then, I've just been doing options trading on that. Wait, you mean the one that what's it called? He recommended, he had his and all his Twitch viewers actually, like, you know, control his trades? Dude, oh my god, I can't believe he actually did that. Jesus Christ. I'd be losing my freaking mind. Yeah. I still can't believe he did that. That is like, that's absolutely mental to me. I'd freak out if other people were touching like 25 grand. Wait. Yeah, I'm curious about the draft actually. Yeah, let's watch this a little bit. Ha! Tinder's actually sponsoring this event. What the hell? I have never watched Justin Kahn's videos actually. Surprisingly, I don't spend a lot of time on YouTube. I just upload my videos and then go about my day. I don't really do much else, to be honest. Yeah. Well. Yeah, for sure. Thanks for coming by, Ricky. I appreciate it. Okay. So let's actually, I'm actually going to talk, I actually like this draft. Maybe this is the last thing I'll do before I turn off the stream. Okay, so they banned the Alchemist probably because last game they got PTSD from it or some shit. Yeah, at least that's basically what I'd be thinking here. But oh man, who are you guys rooting for here? Actually, you know what? I'll just end the stream early. I think people are just leaving. So, yeah, thanks for coming by, guys. If you guys really like this, we can do this again in the future. Just hit me up on Discord if you want to, like, you know, have your resume reviewed, you just want to chat, or, you know, you want to talk about, like, all the offers that you had. So, yeah, hopefully you guys really like this, and I'll see you guys later.